humanity. Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for.
Imagine a media platform that reshapes the conversation, empowers your voice, and redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach the heart of the Bronx and beyond. Our platform connects you to the community. Learn more. Email info@bronxpost.com or call 718-892-5555. Visit www.bronxpost.com for breaking news and updates. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative.
And welcome to Talking Politics. My name is Robert Press. I am a reporter. As you can see by my official New York City press card, I write for the Bronx Post and Parkchester Times. Both like this show, are part of Parrot Media Corporation. And I also contribute to the Co-op City News, have a blog at www.100%.blogspot.com, Facebook pages 100%, and what is going on in your local community board. The views expressed on the show are that of the host, any guest, or anybody commenting at the bottom of the screen, and not necessarily that of Parrot Media Corporation. Let's go to the weather report. Today, Friday, the high will be 62. Saturday goes up to 65 and 71 on Sunday, which will probably be the last day the temperature will be over 70 in 2025. And Monday, it should go down to 62. Now, from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., if the outside temperature falls below 55 degrees, then the inside temperature must be at least 68 degrees everywhere in your apartment, and must be at least 68 degrees in your apartment and building, that is. From 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., regardless of the temperature outside, the inside temperature must be at least 62 degrees everywhere in your apartment from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. So that is the heat laws by the New York City Buildings Department. So if you're not getting heat, call 311 and say, I'm not getting heat in my apartment, and they'll take the complaint. Now, the rain held off on Sunday, December 12th, so the Bronx Morris Park Columbus Day Parade was able to be held, but the carnival that was to follow the parade was rescheduled for this coming Sunday, October 19th, at Loretto Park, when the weather will be much better, and it will be the last probably day that you'll have 70-degree weather. Now, going to world politics first, I'll get to the mayor's race, the debate last night, probably after the commercial break. I'll do world politics first. Now, as far as Gaza goes, they're free shortly after 3:30 a.m. Eastern Time Monday. The final Israeli hostages released from Gaza 2 years and 6 days after their capture by Hamas during the October 7th attack. Amid joyous scenes across Israel, the 20 hostages, all male, all age under 50, were handed over to the Red Cross and then finally to the arms of their gasping families. It's the moment Israel has waited for far too long. Now the world waits to see whether the peace can hold. Trump is feeling bold. The war is over. Trump told Playbook aboard Air Force One, it's over. You understand that Israel has won, and that can be won by force of arms, Trump said. Now it's time to translate these victories against terrorists on the battlefield into the ultimate prize of peace and prosperity for the entire Middle East. Now, when Trump got back to D.C. following the Middle East trip he made to Egypt to tout the ceasefire, Israeli forces continue to delay, though, aid to Gaza, while a re-emergent Hamas fighters demonstrated their grip by executing men in the street, Reuters reported. Hamas has highly public return demonstrates the hurdles of progressing from the initial ceasefire phase one of Trump's plan to permanent settlement that would provide a new that will prevent, a new eruption of fighting. And Israeli officials accused Hamas of violating the new ceasefire deal by failing immediately to return the remains of many of the former captives still in Gaza. As far as the Ukraine goes, on Monday, President Trump warned Russia that he may send Ukraine long-range Tomahawk missiles if Russian President Vladimir Putin doesn't end the nearly 4-year-long conflict soon. The Associated Press reported from aboard Air Force One. I might say, look, this war is not going to get settled. I'm going to send them Tomahawks, Trump told reporters. The Tomahawk is an incredible weapon, very offensive weapon, and honestly, Russia does not need that. His comments come hours after Trump spoke with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky via phone about the missiles. Russian officials have previously expressed extreme concern over the topic of Tomahawks. Its strongest critique of the Kremlin yet, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth warned at a NATO meeting of officers in Brussels that the U.S. could significantly ratchet up the pressure on Russia if it does not end the war in Ukraine. That's reported by Politico. If there is no path to peace in the short term, the United States, along with our allies, will take steps to impose costs on Russia for its continued aggression. As the White House continues to weigh whether to supply Ukraine with American-made missiles, Ukrainian officials met with prominent U.S. weapons manufacturers ahead of Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky's meeting with Trump. Trump spoke Wednesday, though, with Russian President Vladimir Putin and announced that he and Putin will meet in Budapest, Hungary at a date to be determined as Trump seeks to end Putin's war in Ukraine. The call came ahead of tomorrow's the White House visit by Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky and the Republican drive to amp up the pressure on Moscow to end the war, which is intensifying elsewhere. The White House has privately been increasing in the dormant bipartisan Russian sanction bills in Congress. And after Trump said India had committed to stop purchasing Russian oil, New Delhi tried to offer some subtle resistance while not outright denying Trump's claim given trade negotiations. In a statement, India's foreign minister made no mention of such promise by the prime minister, but noted that the country has always sought a diverse range of suppliers. As far as the National Guard coming into your city, the rise of resistance, still Democratic leaders from Chicago and Portland aren't backing down from the fight. I am not afraid to, I think he can do it. He might. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said when asked whether he worried about Trump potentially coming after him, given the president's Truth Social post saying that he should be jailed. But as I said before, come and get me, Oregon AG Dan Raffert said Trump's moves amount to an abuse of powers in an interview with Playbook. While this is where this is headed, any of Trump's most controversial moves that land on the Supreme Court desk will be a meeting with a different reality than the first few months. Trump began his second administration in the middle of the High Court's last term and gained significant deference through so-called shadow document decisions. With the new term just kicking off, there's more time for the courts to chew on cases. But Trump has to duke it out in court, and the impact could be far-reaching. Bronx Congressman Rich Torres has said that he plans to introduce the Trump Act. And the Trump Act, which stands for the Restrict Ugly Money Portraits Act, aims to prohibit any president from issuing currency with their own likeness and requires U.S. currency to feature only deceased individuals. Americans' money should be big, beautiful faces, not big, ugly faces, said Torres in a statement. The legislation is in response for designed for a new $1 coin that honors America's 250th birthday and features President Donald Trump on it. U.S. Treasury Secretary Brandon Burch shared images of the draft coin on his social platform on his X account. One side of the coin features a Trump face with the word liberty and in God we trust. and the years 1776 and 2026. The other side of the coin features an image of Trump in front of American flag with his fist raised and the words "fight, fight, fight," which Trump shouted after he was grazed by a bullet during a July 24 campaign rally. Here is the two images. As you can see, one has Trump's face on it, and the other has him with a fist in the background. Now, Donald Trump has once again threatened to cut off aid to New York, federal funding, that if, and I quote, the communist Mandami wins the mayoral race. If somebody wins and has no chance of ever having a great economy because of that philosophy, you would put a halt to what you're doing, Trump said at a lunch with Argentine President Javier Milei. Trump slammed Mandami several times over the course of the nearly hour-long press availability, insisting incorrectly that the Democratic Socialist Mandami is a communist. I'm not going to send a lot of money to New York. I don't have to. You know, the money comes all through the White House, he said. And if they're going to be sending us stupid policies, I mean communist policies, Trump said, we're not going to ruin one of our great cities. Trump also took a shot at Mandami's opponents, Andrew Cuomo and Curtis Lewa, saying it's a fluke if Mandami gets in because there's a lot of failed people that he's running against. Asked about Trump's comments, Mandami brushed it off as nothing new. Trump is already hurting New York by trying to pull infrastructure funding for retaliation for the government shutdown. But if Trump tries while Mandami is mayor, he said he'd go to the courts. We will continue to receive funding from the federal government, and that's not because of President Trump's generosity. That's because of the law, he said. Just because he utters something does not mean it's the law. Hochul, meanwhile, suggested she'd appeal to Trump's own interest if he tried. There's no person who ever sat in the Oval Office who understands more than Donald Trump that New York City is the economic engine for the entire state, she said. This is detrimental to his properties, business interests, his friends in the city, and a whole way of life perhaps he may need to come back to. Now, Donald Trump's doctor said the president is in exceptional health, and yes, he's got a COVID vaccine booster. Joe Biden is, on a side note, Joe Biden is now getting 5 weeks of radiation therapy, a new step in his fight against cancer. And the Trump administration has secretly authorized the CIA to conduct covert action in Venezuela, stepping up a campaign against Nicolas Maduro, the country's authoritarian leader. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that there are ships and troops ready to invade Venezuela if they have to. On a different note, we're going to go to Letitia James, the New York State Attorney General, who was indicted, because she listed her Virginia home as an investment property in financial disclosure statements, despite allegedly making false claims to a bank to obtain a favorable loan that barred her from using the house as a rental. The 3-bedroom Norfolk, Virginia home James purchased in August 2020, named in the federal jury indictment, is listed in the real estate section of James's 2021, 22, and 23 disclosures to the New York State Ethics Commission and lobbying and government as an investment valued between $100 and under $150,000. However, in her 2024 filing, James designated the Norfolk home as real property rather than investment, and the AG also upped the value of the property from $150,000 to under $250,000. The 2024 disclosure was filed in May of this year, a month after the Federal Housing Agency Director William Pullitt sent a criminal referral to the Justice Department alleging that James had falsified records to obtain home loans for a different Norfolk, Virginia property. It's unclear why James changed the word investment to real property on her 2024 disclosure. James did not disclose generating any income from the home. At the center of the indictment in her ethics filings between 2021 and 24. In her 2020 disclosure, James notes that it's an investment, real property in Norfolk, bought in between $1,000 and $5,000, which brought in between $1,000 and $5,000 in income. However, it is unclear whether this property is the same one mentioned in the indictment. Federal prosecutors allege that James misrepresented how she would use the property when she obtained a $109,600 mortgage loan originated by OMV Financial and backed by Fannie Mae to purchase the $137,000 home in 2020. James agreed to a second home rider when she took out the loan, according to the indictment, which required the AG to occupy and use the property as her second residency and prohibit it to be used as time sharing or other shared ownership arrangement that required her either to rent the property or give other persons control over the occupancy of the property. Despite these representations, prosecutors wrote, the Norfolk property was not occupied by or used by James as a secondary residence and instead was used as rental investment property. The misrepresentation allows James to obtain a mortgage rate that would not have been available had she informed the lender that she planned to rent the house, according to the Department of Justice. Now, I'm going to stop here, but before I go to a break,
imagine a media platform that reshapes the conversation, empowers your voice, and redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach the heart of the Bronx and beyond. Our platform connects you to the community. Learn more. Email info@bronxpost.com or call 718-892-5555. Visit www.bronxpost.com for breaking news and updates. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative.
Okay, welcome back. Well, let's get into the mayoral debate last night. There were three candidates on stage with former Governor Andrew Cuomo and losing candidate in the Democratic primary, trying to get some points back, going after Zohan Madani, with Zohan Madani going after Andrew Cuomo, and third candidate, Curtis Lewa, on stage saying there's too much testosterone on here with these two guys. With just 3 weeks to go until Election Day, time is dwindling for independent candidate Andrew Cuomo to overcome current frontrunner Zohan Madani. Well, I hope I got that right, because Zoran kept correcting Curtis because Curtis kept mispronouncing his first name. So all three came out swinging on Thursday night, the first official mayoral debate in the general election, standing up to Trump, which candidate is best equipped to handle President Donald Trump and his numerous threats to New York City. Madani said he'll stand up to Trump. Cuomo said he would and has as governor. Lewa said they're both posturing as tough guys, asserting there's high levels of testosterone, as I said, in this room. Cuomo argued that his actual experience dealing with Trump as president during the years they overlap when Cuomo was governor, he says he could stop Trump from sending in National Guard troops because he did it in COVID-19 in the pandemic, or during the pandemic. He stopped Trump from sending in National Guard. Given an opportunity to say whether they would support Governor Kathy Hochul for re-election, none of the three opted to endorse her. While that's not particularly surprising for Republican Lewa or Cuomo, Madani's silence raised some eyebrows, particularly given the fact that Hochul endorsed his mayoral bid last month. Now, as far as skeletons in Cuomo's closet, Cuomo deflected questions about several different investigations during the debate. He said that repeatedly that the allegations against him of sexual harassment were unfounded, and Curtis Sliwa came back and said 13 women are unfounded. It was a political report. There was no bias to it. Cuomo said of New York Attorney General Letitia James' 2021 report that found he had sexually harassed the women. During COVID, everyone did whatever they could in the state, and there has been numerous investigations, whether they've gone through it, and they said we followed the federal guidelines, Cuomo said, of the investigation that has undercounted deaths in nursing homes. They have been multiple investigations where the Department of Justice found that the nursing home investigation was politically motivated. Mandami also has a past. For months, Cuomo tried to nail Mandami on a handful of controversies, a 2021 tweet calling the New York City Police Department racist and anti-queer, his criticism of Israel, even the statement of leftist screamer Hassan Pitka, who Mandami did a friendly interview with. If Cuomo's goal is going into debate was to draw attention to these issues, he succeeded, largely by talking about them at every opportunity he got. Mandami was pressured on some of the issues by moderators too, as he's been vague in some of his answers in the past. It was only Wednesday that he publicly offered a broad apology to the NYPD for the 2020 tweet. Mandami offered a response for his support for Israel's right to exist, but not necessarily as a Jewish state. I've said again and again that I recognize Israel's right to exist, he said. I will not recognize any state's right to exist with a system of hierarchy on the basis of race or religion. Now, I'm going to sidetrack here before I get to some more about this. So that means that Mandami wouldn't recognize Italy, because that's with the Vatican there, Vatican City, or any other state that's run, that has a religious head. Okay, now going back to the debate, Sliwa, it's this city and state says, had a pretty good night. We're not calling Curtis Sliwa a spoiler candidate, but his comment to equal opportunity attacks against both Mandami and Cuomo spoiled any hopes Cuomo might have that the two could gang up on the race's current frontrunners. Sliwa managed to come across as the likable. Sliwa had plenty of jabs and criticism for Mandami's policy proposals. He said, Zohan, your fantasies are never going to come about. He saved some of the spiciest, though, for Cuomo. I knew Mario Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo. You're no Mario Cuomo. Positioned on stage between the two of them, the Guardian Angel founder sought to distinguish himself from his opponents, and he said, this was probably the keynote of the night. Thank God I'm not a professional politician, calling Cuomo and Mandami respectively the architect and the apprentice of bail reform. Now, who won the debate last night? Many people say it was Curtis Sliwa. Many people say it was Zohan Mandami, but it's apparent that the loser was Andrew Cuomo. On to some more about this. New York City Democrats, mayoral nominee Zohan Mandani and State Attorney Letitia James presented themselves as a united front against President Trump at a major campaign rally, assailing his agenda and arguing that that the president was seeking political retribution. And the Democratic Socialist of America, the far-left party tied to New York City mayoral candidate Zohan Mandani, criticized the Gaza ceasefire agreement, the party's national branch, stating that the Palestinian resistance had announced a ceasefire. This will not end Israel's assault on the Palestinian people or the theft and occupation of Palestinian lands. A conditional ceasefire agreement does not wash the hands of the ruling class, the party said in a statement. Until Palestinian liberation, the DSA said it welcomes the relief for Palestinians and expressed its strongest solidarity to our comrades in Palestine, but the statement was mostly critical. The statement accused Israel of genocide and apartheid, terrorizing the Middle East region, among other things. The city's chapter of the DSA has endorsed Mandami's run for mayor and its campaign closely tied to the New York City DSA, which has not commented on the ceasefire. Mandami, the national DSA and New York chapter have all made anti-Israel advocacy central to their politics Mandami's own statement on the ceasefire was also critical of Israel. Mandami began accusing Israel of the genocide the weeks after the October 7th, 2023 invasion of Israel, before the IDF had started ground operations in Gaza. His statement the day after the Hamas attack focused on criticism of Israel. Last week, on the second anniversary of the October 7th attack on Israel, Mandami called the Hamas attack a horrific war crime and accused Israel of launching a genocidal war against the Palestinians. New York City Mayor Eric Adams said, "Our hearts are filled with joy as an end to the war in Gaza appears on the horizon, and families have finally been united. We pray that the news will bring lasting peace, justice, prosperity to Israel and Palestinians alike." Top Democratic officials nationwide, though, are getting frustrated with the local party for not throwing their full weight behind Mandami. Democratic officials are pressuring DNC Chair Ken Martin to do more, despite concerns on how Mandami's views on Israel could shape the party's brand, but it's also reflective of Martin's leadership. Ken's team doesn't take the risk, one official told Mandami once again avoided taking a position on ballot measures to go public in November, as some New York City Council allies are growing frustrated with his explanations for staying out of the fray. Despite all we have learned about the powerful men like Sean P. Diddy Combs and Jeffrey Epstein exploiting women, New York City mayoral candidate Zohan Madani still supports the full decriminalization of prostitution, which came up last night. Mayor Adams, he said he wants to slap historic designation status on the Italian explorer Christopher Columbus's monuments at Columbus Circle and Astoria's Columbus Square to keep Mandami from toppling the statues if he takes City Hall. Now, it appears that mayoral candidate Zohan Madani's campaign quietly took in nearly 13,000 in potentially illegal foreign donations, including one from his mother-in-law who lives in Dubai. At least 170 of the nearly 54,000 contributions to the Democratic candidate's campaign came from donors with addresses outside of the United States. An examination of New York City Financial Board records found only U.S. citizens are permitted, or permanent legal residents are allowed to contribute to political campaigns and political action committees under federal, state, and city law. And candidates are expected to return any of the illegal donations. Violators who knowingly accept foreign donations could face hefty fines and imprisonment. But so far, the campaign has failed to return 88 of the foreign donations, worth a total of $7,190, records show. His campaign issued a statement Saturday saying, "We will, of course, return any donations that are not in compliance with the CFB law. However, where there's smoke, there's fire, and so I would be concerned," said mayoral candidate Curtis Sliwa upon learning of the foreign money coming into Mandami's campaign. "There is probably a lot more in terms of foreign money." 2 months ago, Sliwa, during an interview with Fox Business, called on the U.S. Department of Justice to investigate his suspicions that Mandami is being aided by difficult to trace dark money illegally being funneled into super PACs through foreign nationals. Cuomo once pressured Mayor Bill de Blasio to close Rikers Island, but now he says the plan to build the 4 jails closer to courthouses is a boondoggle and should be scrapped, and that the new jail should be built on Rikers Island instead. Cuomo's proposal, first shared with the New York Times, draws a contrast with Mandami, who told Politico last week that he plans to stay the course and build the 4 new jails despite construction delays, ballooning costs, and a current incarcerated population far outstripping the planned capacity. There is over 7,200 people currently in detention at Rikers Island. Cuomo's campaign spokesman Rich Parzi argued that rebuilding the island would be cheaper, referring to a report from the conservative Manhattan Institute, who estimated the city could save 20% on logistical costs. He said Cuomo initiated rebuilding of LaGuardia Airport and that could be used as a template. But the independent Rikers Commission found that rebuilding on Rikers would cost 8 to 15% more than the current plan, and that doesn't include cost of demolition of old jails or some costs that have already gone into the contracts for the borough-based jails. Curtis Sliwa, the Republican candidate making his second run for mayor, is closing out the campaign the way he does everything, with his restless energy, bullheaded refusal to back down, and an endless string of wisecracks and wild, well-told anecdotes of observations accumulated during a lifetime spent roaming the streets of New York. But behind Sliwa's constant patter is a plan. He says, look, I start with 28% from the last election. I don't think most of them are going to leave. The Republicans will come home. I have even more independents than Republicans, he said recently, And now, with the Protect Animal ballot line, first time ever in electoral politics, I figure I'll get another 4 or 5%. At first glance, the political math works out. The last two Republicans for mayor before Sliwa, Nicole Malliotakis and Joe Lhota, finished with 28 and 24 respectively against Democratic Bill de Blasio in 2017 and 2013. Now, assuming the baseline of 28%, so far there's good reason for Sliwa to think he has a bit of luck that could move him with striking range of the Democratic leader, Zohan Madami. Pardon me. Let's go to, I'm going to end it here right now and see you next week on Talking Politics. It appears that my throat has given out. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.
Imagine a media platform that reshapes the conversation, empowers your voice, and redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach the heart of the Bronx and beyond. Our platform connects you to the community. Learn more. Email info@bronxpost.com or call 718-892-5555. Visit www.bronxpost.com for breaking news and updates. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative.
Keep watching The Politics every Friday,